Welcome to the Missing Link for SLP's podcast. I'm glad you're here. Remember what it was like back in graduate school? Or maybe you still are in grad school. Today's episode is part of the CSD Graduate Students Journey series. In this series, I talk to students who are either in school or fresh into their clinical fellowship year. We talk and cover real subjects like how to get into graduate school, how to find and prepare for a medical internship, thoughts on teletherapy from a student's perspective, and lots more. Get ready for some real conversations with SLP students who are at the very beginning of their careers. Welcome to this episode of the Missing Link for SLP's podcast. Today we are meeting with somebody really fun. I'm going to call her the boss lady because that's what her interview is all about today, how to land that dream job. Let me introduce you to Kristen Winter, and here is her bio. She says, "Hello, I've been practicing speech pathology for over 20 years with a focus on adult neurorehabilitation, and am passionate about advocacy and education for patients and their families. I am the lead speech-language pathologist at Cleveland Clinic Martin Health in Southeast Florida and owner of a small private practice, Speech RX. I'm the facilitator of a thriving stroke support group serving individuals, families, and caregivers after discharge from the hospital. I am a member of the Medical SLP Collective and the Inner Circle Leadership Program this year. I am also a volunteer with the Dysphagia Outreach Project and assistant facilitating the Dysphagia Digest of Sarasota, a dysphagia support group. I have interviewed many speech pathologists over the years, including new grads, CF applicants, and seasoned SLPs. I enjoy the interview process and always seem to learn a little something new with everyone I interview. I truly love our field and believe we can make a tremendous impact on the lives of our patients. Outside of work, I love to spend time at the beach, exercise, and watch college sports." So hello, Kristen. Welcome to The Missing Link.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. It's great to have you here. I just read your bio, so everybody knows all about you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here tonight.
I called you the boss lady because you have lots and lots of experience interviewing people. So you've got some really great feedback and insight into that for us today, right?
Yes, I do. I'm ready to share.
All right. Tell us first, this is a question I love to ask because I often talk to speech pathologists further down their career and they're burned out and things like that. And they forget the reason why they became a speech pathologist in the first place. So I'd love to hear why people went into our field. Can you share with us why you became a speech pathologist?
Sure. So it goes back really to college. And, I thought I wanted to be a teacher, like I think a lot of speech pathologists do at first. And then it was actually my father, he's an optometrist, and he had a patient who was a speech pathologist. And he said, I think you should go shadow her, over one of your breaks. I think you would, love this field. You're still in the school. So anyway, I did. I fell in love, of course. And I said, you know what? I'm changing from a teaching degree to speech pathology. I went into that and, loved all my coursework. But then, I was kind of hemming and hawing. Do I go more into the schools? And I like working with the challenged kids. Or do I go more in the adult realm? And I got a CFY and a SNF, and the rest is history. And so I've been working pretty much, I would say 95% of my career with adults, but I love the neuro population. I love working, with the adult population. And I think it's just a super, super rewarding field.
I would totally agree. And there's so many things that we can do in our field. It's great. The places we can go, the things that we can do.
That's right.
So you've done a lot in your career, and you have hired a lot of speech pathologists, and have you fired any?
Well, I haven't fired personally, but through HR, we have had to let a few people go over the years.
So we are going to talk today about the hiring process. My husband's a plant manager and he always has firing stories. We don't want to hear about those, but it does happen. So we're going to focus on the positive side of how to land your dream job.
Okay.
So first question for you then is what's one of the first things to do when you're thinking about getting your dream job?
Well, I think first, put together just a fantastic, dynamic resume. You really want to sell yourself and everything that you've done in your schooling, and your internships, and, some of them call them your externships, all the shadowing experiences that you've done, and really just sell yourself. Have a great cover letter, really strong cover letter, telling the company or the school, why you would be such a great fit. And, just let your resume speak for itself and really shine.
Any specific things to be sure to include in that resume?
Well, I do think it is very important to, like I was saying, highlighting all of your experiences and your internships, but also, the CEU courses. I know that, the CS do not get CE credit until they have their Cs, but, get onto webinars and just really feed yourself with lots and lots of knowledge with whichever, field you decide to go in, whether you decide to work with adults or children, or if you decide to do both.
I was hoping you'd say something like that, because when I work with students or when I've been the speech pathologist looking over resumes to hire somebody, the CEU is one of the places where I go and I look and I see how focused they are with how have they spent their time? Have they thoughtfully chosen these courses that are going to get them where they want to go in their field? Have they done them throughout the year, or have they waited to the end of the 30 or the 3 years to fit all of them in? Then I know they're not trying to stay based on evidence-based practice, but they're just doing it more to get it done. But maintaining those courses and selecting those courses that take them where they want to go.
Yes, I agree.
How about a cover letter? What have you seen in cover letters that stand out at you?
I like to almost feel the energy, that comes from someone, using, very positive, positive words, using a team approach, innovative. And like you were saying too, that they're just very passionate about using evidence-based practice, in their work. So I think it's interesting when you do read a cover letter, and then you meet someone that often it does match their personality.
Now that I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What words of advice do you have for the speech pathologist who isn't bubbly and naturally effervescent, but who is more reserved and more of an introvert?
Well, right. Not everyone has to be super bubbly, but I think just coming across knowledgeable, and even if you don't have a lot of experience, you can say that, but say what coursework you've taken, which professors or colleagues, you admire, or, which, research articles and things like that you've studied, and just how you're just hoping to, somehow, land this job so that you can, further improve your skills.
Now, one of the things that you and I did in preparation for this interview was you sent me a very comprehensive list of questions and things to discuss today. And your very first topic in there was all of the things to research and questions for the person who's doing the interview, who the interviewee can ask. Can you talk about some of those things?
Sure.
What type of questions should we think about if we are going to the job interview?
So I would, really suggest just coming to that interview prepared. and doing a little research on the company. And, Google is just so great where you can just, look up that company or that school or that private practice and just know a bit about them. Don't show up for the interview really not knowing anything about them, just that, that they're a hospital or that they're a school. What do they really specialize in? I think it's good to ask, how many other SLPs work here, and then do they have other therapists that work there, PTs or OTs or other support staff. If you're interviewing at a hospital, ask, are they a primary or a comprehensive stroke center? Because that's very important, for speech pathologists. Ask whether they perform fees or if they perform MBSs or swallow studies, or if they do both. Maybe what evaluations do they use, or what do they like to use? Do they expect you to use, their evaluations or their screens? I think it's also important to ask, so what is a day like for me? How many patients do you expect me to see in the hospital, or how many, in an outpatient setting, or if you're in a school, how many students will I be seeing? Are there lots of groups? Are they individual? Just, questions like that, so it lets the interviewer know that you're really, committed and thought this through, and that what you want.
I like that response. You do want to come across that you're knowledgeable about where you're going, and you're not just taking a job just to get a job, but
That's
you're taking this job because this is where you want to be working.
Yeah.
So what about, I know we're in COVID times right now, and so much of our stuff is done on Zoom, but what about interviewing? What should a person wear?
Right. So lots of interviews are now, on Zoom or on Skype or FaceTime. I did do an interview months ago on FaceTime, and it worked out. It worked out great. But I just suggest, just really look professional, look tidy. A lot of, if you do have another job and you do have to, run from that job and you're wearing your scrubs, just, make sure you just look, pressed and your hair looks nice, and, whether a male or female, but you just really, look put together, or put something on that really makes you, stand out and look like a professional. I find that that's important. And then the other really big suggestion I have is, because I had this happen, in an interview, was I said, please resist looking at your cell phone and turn it on do not disturb mode or silence it. I had an interview where she got 3 different phone calls within the interview and kept stopping the interview when we were midway in conversation and stopping the interview. And I thought, oh my goodness. And she was just so distracted, and I felt badly, and I didn't know if there was something going on, but it's like, please just put the phone away for that half hour or however long the interview is. Don't look distracted.
Don't look distracted. Be focused on that. And also, if it's a virtual interview, watch for your background.
That's right. Absolutely.
I've had some funny stories with people coming on to meet with me, and yeah, we've all seen those Zooms where the backgrounds aren't appropriate. So I was doing a podcast just a little while ago, and all of a sudden it's just this whirling comes on, and my husband's downstairs. We're in the process of moving. He's drilling out a lock, and I had to stop the podcast to get that out of there. So let everybody else also in the house know what you've got going on, or wherever you're at, for that interview, and stay focused. Good. So here it is. Resist looking at your phone during the interview. Turn it off or in the do not disturb mode. So what about talking yourself up? How does that happen? How do you do that in an interview?
Right. So I think especially if it's, you're one of your first interviews, after you've graduated, you've finished all of your grad school work, whether it's for your CFY position, or then after you've gotten your C's, just really try to talk and brag about yourself. You know, a lot of people have a hard time talking about their accomplishments and bragging about themselves, but you really, really do need to try to shine here, you know, without being too overly boastful, of course, but just really try to shine, you know, try not to be too shy, even if, you know, if that is more your nature, but, you know, but discuss, like I was saying before, that the coursework, internship, you know, what have you done so far, that makes, you know, you really stand out.
Good advice. Very good advice, because you are going into an interview to sell yourself.
That's right.
Are trying to set yourself apart from the other speech pathologists who may be interested in the same position. And I know in the business world, we have a term called differential marketing, where what is it that sets our course apart from everybody else's courses or our program or our business? And this is what we do in the interviews. We need to set ourselves apart and beyond. Heard an interesting quote the other day: success is done by people who stand out, not blend in. I thought that was a very good quote. And it's the same with the interviews. You need to stand out at the interviews. One of the ways you can do that is, earlier you were mentioning some words to put in resumes. Mm-hmm. And you dropped about 5 of them. And I just wished I had a pen and a pencil beside me, pen and paper, to write them down. Another way to really stand out in those interviews is to have a list of those words that you want to be sure that you're using in that interview. Some of those high impact words or those passion words that you know drive a point home. How about goals? Should you mention goals in an interview?
Sure. I think it's great to talk about your goal for that year, and then even your 3 to 5 year goals. You know, that's often a question that we may ask, but I think, you know, it's great if the interviewee, you know, just talks about that, and that kind of shows the interviewer what your true, you know, interests are and what you're passionate about, and where you think you can help their company or their school, you know, be the best. And then after the interview, you know, ask for their business card. Take that with you, and then send that thank you email after the interview too. I just think that's a nice touch. You know, it's not imperative that happens, but I just really feel that that's a nice touch, just to reach out and email the person that you've interviewed with.
Everybody likes a thank you, and it's good manners. What words of advice do you have for the person who doesn't feel the interview is going so well?
I guess maybe ask some questions. You know, ask, you know, what are you looking for? I think that's a great question to tell new grads or someone who's in that transition phase. You know, please tell me, what do I need to do? I mean, for example, I did interview a girl who was coming to interview at the hospital, and she was very honest and said, you know, I did my internship, but in my internship, my mentor did not really allow me to do the bedside swallow evals. She let me do the screens, and she was there for me with the screens, but she didn't allow me to do them. She let me watch, and she just admitted, I don't feel like I have the skills to do them on my own. And she said, oh, I wish I maybe spoke up, you know, during my internship a little bit more, but she said, I really have not done one. And honestly, I was very glad that she told me that, because I had to say, you know, wow, that's probably about 80 to 90% of our evals every day are, you know, doing swallowing evals and doing, modified barium swallows. So I advised her, maybe go get a job, you know, in a skilled nursing facility and get that experience working with dysphagia and with dysphasic patients. Because I just told her, if we were to hire you, it would be like you were like a student fresh out of, you know, taking your coursework. And I said, if we hire you, we have a great training process of a few weeks, but we're going to expect that you can just go and run with it. So, and she really thanked me and said, well, thank you for that. Because honestly, I didn't think of that. And so I do think she did go get a job in a SNF. She was working in the schools at that time and said, I really want to get, in the medical setting and working with adults. So that's what I advised her to do.
Right. There are speech pathologists who do want to make the shift, who do start off in the schools because that's what they can find and want to transition into the medical setting. What words of advice do you have for them?
Well, I would say, just be ready that you may have to just take a per diem or a part-time job. Even though you're really looking for that full-time position, you might have to piece together a few per diem jobs or 2 part-time jobs, because oftentimes, if you really shine and are, just a fantastic speech pathologist, that job at some point will probably turn into a full-time job, and then you will get that. But just be ready to do that. Offer that I will work weekends. I can come in. I can work 3 to 7 to catch those late evaluations that come in the hospital. You'll work holidays. Just let the interviewer know that I'll just do whatever it takes. To get a job here. So just really try to sell that.
And look for those opportunities. Step in when they're there, prepare for them, and then follow those rabbit trails and see where they go.
Absolutely.
Tell us a point in time where you felt like you just really made an impact in somebody's life as a speech pathologist.
I think it's one of the most rewarding things is when you have a patient that is NPO, which means that you are not eating by mouth, and you do that modified barium swallow and find that they have made improvements, and you are able to put them on a diet and discuss that with them, and then speak to the family or the friends or the caregivers and just talk about them eating again. I just think that's one of the most rewarding things that we do.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite resource you'd like to share with us? A go-to thing that you listen to, watch to, look up?
Well, I really like the Medical SLP Collective. I find that they are just a wealth of knowledge, and I do invite all new grads or CF to join the collective. I just think it like I said, it just answers so many questions, and it's just such a great resource and just offers so much for new grads or for seasoned SLPs.
Mm-hmm. There's a big need out there. That's why I started my website, just for people to make that transition between school and actually stepping into the medical center or stepping into their careers and bridging that gap between what they know and how to apply it. So those resources are so important, and they're so out there.
Absolutely. And honestly, your podcast, The Missing Link, I've been listening to a bunch of the podcasts, in the last couple of weeks. And I think, like we discussed earlier, I wish I had that. I've been out of, school for about 25 years now, and there was nothing like that. And I just think surrounding yourself with other like-minded speech pathologists is just fantastic. And the resources out there are great. But I just think what you're doing is just fantastic for new grads or for, transitioning speech pathologists.
Thank you. It's nice to have a community when you leave graduate school to go join again. And just like you said, other speech pathologists who are wherever they're at in their journey, they're with you, and you're sharing those resources, and you're asking those questions, finding those answers, and keeping that passion alive. Just like when we started, I asked you, why do you do what you do, and where's your passion? And you told me. And it's keeping that fire alive, that burn alive, which is which is great. Because that helps us really live the art of being a speech pathologist rather than just the skill side of it.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been fun.
Well, thank you. It was so nice to chat, and I really hope that this, reaches, the new grads or CFs or, like we spoke about, even the transitioning speech pathologists, and, gives them a little bit of tidbits of information. And even if, take away a few things, I really hope that it's helpful. And, again, I just think it's great what you're doing, and so happy that they have this resource.
I hope today's conversation has created some aha moments for you and motivated you to become a better SLP, continuing to connect some of those missing links between what you know and how to use that knowledge. Thank you for downloading the Missing Link for SLP's podcast. And if you enjoyed the show, I'd love you to subscribe, rate it, and leave a short review. Also, please share an episode with a friend. Together we can raise awareness and help more SLPs find and connect those missing links and get the information needed to help them feel confident in their patient care every step of the way. Follow me on Instagram and join the Fresh SLP community on Facebook. Show notes are always available, so come learn more at freshslp.com. Let's make those connections. You got this.